have breaking news right now. It begins. The United States military is resuming its blockade of Iranian ports right now. And according to CENTCOM, forces will enforce the blockade against vessels traveling to and from Iranian ports and coastal areas. We're going to have more on that later this hour. Also today, President Trump hosted Iraq's new Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi at the White House. Following their meeting, the president said this.
It's really, really big news. And our country has to shape up. But that's what we're going to be talking about Thursday is it doesn't get bigger, because without free and fair elections, you don't have a country. We'll be discussing other things too, but it's going to be a very big announcement. Yeah.
And this is not something you see every day. United States Supreme Court Justices Amy Coney Barrett and Elena Kagan testifying before Congress. At the outset of the testimony, Justice Kagan made a brief mention about late South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham.
I didn't get many Republican votes when I was confirmed to the Supreme Court. Not many Republicans vote for the nominees of somebody selected by a Democratic president, and yet Senator Graham voted for me.
We're going to have more from their testimony later in the show. I'm Greta Van Susteren, and this is The Record. Today, the nation has a new U.S. Senator, Senator Darlene Graham Nardone of South Carolina. A short time ago, she took the oath of office to replace her brother, the late Senator Lindsey Graham. Yesterday, South Carolina's Governor Henry McMaster appointed Nardone to take Graham's seat until January 2027. That is when Senator Lindsey Graham's term was to expire. Graham was up for re-election this November. Last month, Graham easily won his Republican primary. With his death, a special primary election will be held on August 11th. The filing period for the special primary is July 21 to July 28th. And according to South Carolina state law, the election must happen on the second Tuesday after that deadline. So that is why the special primary election will be held on August 11th. Former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum joins me. Nice to see you, sir.
Good to be with you, Greta.
Looking at the new senator from South Carolina, boy, you could see the pain in her today. I mean, this should be an exciting, fun day to be named a U.S. senator, but boy, this is tough for her.
Well, obviously, she was incredibly close to her brother Lindsey, and this is sort of picking up where he left off and trying to carry it through to the end. But I'm sure it's something she would very, very happily trade for having her brother back. It's a good move for Henry McMaster. It honors Lindsey, honors his family, doesn't get involved with who the next person is going to be, because she obviously is not going to run for his seat. So it was a good political move for him, and it was a good way to honor Lindsey.
Imagine, though, we got all the cameras on her now. Where this is a tape from about an hour and a half ago. But, by now she's probably walked into his office, and she's been there alone, probably opened his drawers, seen all his stuff. It's sort of the very private moments that the cameras don't capture that are so incredibly painful.
I'm sure there'll be every memory you can think of, just the pictures on the wall. And I've been in Lindsey's office many, many times, and he had lots of memorabilia. And so I'm sure she'll just be sitting there just looking around at all of the different things that Lindsey was able to accomplish, and just remember, what a great gift he was to her, but also to the country.
Indeed. All right, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, don't miss it. The president's got some big news, and we understand it's about prior election problems. We don't know a whole lot more, other than he says it's big news.
Yeah, obviously this is all to try to get some more support behind the Save America Act, because the president is convinced that you need more voter integrity, and that Washington is the place to make it happen. I believe in voter integrity. I'm not as big a fan of having Washington dictate election laws. I think those should be done more at the state level, and historically Republicans have always supported that the real key to elections is to have a lot of different election systems. It makes it harder to rig elections if every state and every area and every community and every state has different ways of conducting, of doing election security and the like. So the bottom line is, I know the president feels like he had a wrong done to him in 2012. And
2020.
Excuse me, 2020. Yeah, 2012 was a different election. 2020, and he's trying to basically make the point, probably, that he should have won that election, and this is probably an opportunity for him to drive that point home.
Well, these elections are so profoundly important, but so profoundly exciting as well. I talked to Democratic strategist James Carville, and it's going to be dropped at 5 p.m. my podcast, Greta Wire, with that. So I'd like to talk to you, a Republican, about the election. So this is my chance. Who's going to run on the Republican for president, do you think? Let's play the game of wager. Who's going to run?
Well, the two who are clearly the front runners right now are Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance. The interesting about that is that Marco, who has done an incredible job as Secretary of State and is obviously there right now, is going to have to leave to run. So the question is, does he leave right after the election? I mean, you'll know relatively soon whether Marco is going to run or not, because he has to make the decision to separate himself from the administration. The second thing is, who outside of those two are serious about running. Ron DeSantis has made it pretty clear that he wants to run. He's doing everything he can to make him very, very MAGA. He's done a lot of things in the state of Florida this year to be much more populist instead of conservative, which, again, trying to appeal to the MAGA base, which obviously he did not when he ran against Trump in 2024. So
don't you have to have both conservative and MAGA? Don't you have to win? Or can you get by just having the MAGA?
Well, that's the real big question. I mean, how much has the Republican Party become just a MAGA party and has abandoned conservative principles? And we were talking off camera about Lindsey and the fact that Lindsey was a Reagan conservative when it came to national security, which is not necessarily the MAGA view of national security. It's more represented by J.D. Vance, which is a more isolationist view. You can't be Lindsey Graham and J.D. Vance at the same time. They're not the same. They don't blend together very well. And so there's going to be a fight, not just for the presidency, but for the soul of the Republican Party. And Donald Trump, while he may endorse, he may get involved, that fight's not going to, Donald Trump's not going to be the decider of that. It's going to come down to who can make the best case for what the future of the party should look like.
Well, James Carville said to me in this podcast, he said that what he thought was a fatal mistake for Vice President Kamala Harris when she was asked on The View if she would do anything different from President Biden, and she said basically nothing. No. So the question then becomes how much does any candidate, whether it be Rubio or Vance or anybody else, tie himself right to the president, and that'll depend on his popularity as time marches on.
It will. A lot will depend on his popularity, but it also depends on you have a Trump who has this MAGA doctrine, but he didn't always live by it. I mean, he campaigned on ending forever wars and ending all the wars, and he hasn't done that. He's actually been quite a realist when it came to the threats that confront the world. And so, does J.D. Vance run on the Trump rhetoric or the Trump record? Because they're not the same. And so and you can say that with a lot of issues with Donald Trump. He says, rhetorically very populist things, but when it comes down to brass tacks, he's taken sort of traditional conservative approaches. And that might be the place to go, which is Trump as a president as opposed to Trump as candidate.
It's absolutely fascinating and very important. Anyway, Senator Rick Santorum, thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Coming up, there is an unlikely battle in Tennessee, and it has to do with fortune cookies. What is this all about? That when the record continues.
Whenever news breaks.
A lot of destruction there. It was really the front lines in the battle.
And wherever it happens.
And humanitarian corridors opened up this morning.
We're trying to go rescue a 96-year-old lady that doesn't have anybody to take care of her.
They're using ingenuity. They refuse to give up.
It's incoming fire. Come on. Yeah, let's get down here.
Newsmax is there for you.
Now, tirzepatide for weight management is available in a dissolvable tablet. It's not the injection and doesn't offer the same strength or clinical evidence as the injectable form, and results will differ from the injection. But for patients who don't want shots, this tablet option is worth exploring. Understanding results will differ from the injection. Tirzepatide tablets are a prescription that starts with a telehealth evaluation by a licensed physician who reviews your health history. And if it's right for you, they prescribe it. This might be worth a conversation.
Stop, check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at shadyrays.com.
Show off this summer with a little help from Cabinets to Go. Now through July 21st, the more you buy, the more you'll save on custom stock cabinets. Shop our most popular collections of quick ship in-stock cabinets at up to 40% off. Or find Cotswold Linen and Chalet White at 45% off. Plus save up to 50% on custom-built cabinets for a tailored perfect fit. Don't miss our Buy More, Save More sale. Shop and save online or in showrooms nationwide. Only at Cabinets to Go. Designed to wow.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
President Trump's nemesis E. Jean Carroll is back in the news, and her purse just got heavier. Today, her lawyers say she collected more than $5 million from President Trump. Carroll received the jury award more than 3 years ago, but did not collect until today. A jury found the president liable for sexually abusing her in a New York department store. She was unable to say when she claimed this incident occurred, other than to say late 1995 or early 1996. The jury verdict also said that the president defamed her on social media. President Trump denies the allegations of sexual abuse. When asked for comment by a news outlet, the White House referred them to Trump's personal lawyers, who have yet to comment. The midterms, they're fun. And Michigan's U.S. Senate race is hot, and it has the nation watching. Will the Democrat Party go further left with candidate Abdul El-Sayed? First, he has to win his party's primary, but he has a new ad out today.
Where did Abdul El-Sayed come from?
Here.
We're his grandparents.
We helped raise him.
He became a doctor.
We love him, and so will you.
Too much. I'm Abdul El-Sayed, and I approve the heck out of this message.
Language.
So what do you think about that ad? Will it clinch the primary for him? Well, his opponent in the Democratic primary is Congresswoman Haley Stevens. She, too, has used her Michigan upbringing to appeal to Michigan Democratic voters.
I remember being handed the keys to my first car. I'm Haley Stevens, and I bet you do too. That used Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, it meant more to me than just freedom. It meant I had a piece of Michigan.
Yesterday, retiring Democrat U.S. Michigan Senator Gary Peters endorsed Stevens. El-Sayed has his own endorsement from the Senate, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. El-Sayed has another far-left endorsement, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC. The Democratic primary showdown is just around the corner on August 4th. And now to Tennessee. There's a battle over fortune cookies.
How hard am I gonna crack down on China? Well, here's a clue.
Marsha Blackburn worked with President Trump to take on communist China. As governor, Marsha will fight to protect Tennessee land from Chinese front companies.
Okay, that's Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. She wants to be Tennessee's next governor. Do you like that ad? Well, the mayor of Nashville, Freddie O'Connell, doesn't like it. To be clear, Mayor O'Connell and Senator Blackburn are not running against each other. Mayor O'Connor is running for re-election as mayor of Nashville. Blackburn responded to Mayor O'Connell with another fortune cookie that said, quote, Freddie O'Connell puts illegal aliens over Tennesseans, end quote. Former White House Chief of Staff, former North Carolina Congressman Mark Meadows joins me. I love those ads. I love it.
Too. Listen, when you've got them crushing fortune cookies, but here's the interesting thing: it's effective because you got the mayor of Nashville now responding. So I wouldn't normally see it, you wouldn't normally see it, but now because it's in the news, we're seeing it. But you know. One thing we do know is that Marsha Blackburn was right to do that kind of ad because it makes you laugh, makes you smile. And politics oftentimes is far too serious. But the other thing I know, she's going to be the governor.
Well, I think she is too. But it's interesting is that I like the ones with a sense of humor because those are the ones that I don't like some of them are a little boring and I sort of switch off.
Well, and millions and millions and millions of dollars get there. And the ones that are unique, it was interesting in the lead up, some of those, I'm just like you there in Michigan, where you got Haley Stevens and the far left primary candidate that's endorsed by AOC and Bernie Sanders, saying, I'm just like one of you. I'm a Michigander. And that's what a lot of it does. One other that hopefully you'll have on a future show, Tom Tiffany. He's got a You Betcha commercial that is just fabulous, that has his mom in it as well.
Of course. All right. AI is we're going to see a lot of AI in these commercials.
Yeah. Well, a lot more AI, and what that does is makes it very difficult for the consumer, myself included, to say, did they really say that? Did they really do that? Now, some of it is very over the top with AI, and it's really more to prove a point. But it's wickedly good on how they can make you look like one way and another and adjust your speech, and you think it's them talking.
I don't understand why these campaigns are so expensive. I mean, I hear about like Florida has 3 TV markets. It's got Tampa, Orlando, and Miami. And it's so frightful. California is terrible. Texas is terrible because of the big TV market. Hasn't everything moved to social media? And why hasn't it gotten profoundly cheaper? It doesn't cost anything to put it on social media.
Well, it's gotten more expensive because they're doing it still the old way on traditional TV. And now they've got not only cable, but they've got subscribers, and now they've got social media. But I do think that even in the 10 years or so since I ran the last time for Congress, it has changed dramatically. Social media is taking over, subscription-based streaming and so forth. Podcasts like what you're doing, really the long-form podcast is really taking over. And guys like me, they didn't even know what a podcast was back in 2012, and now it's all the rage.
All right, Senator Rick Santorum and I talked about 2028.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think it'll be a fairly crowded field. I do agree with the senator. It's going to be tough for Marco to actually come out and say, I'm leaving the president to go run for president.
Why is that hard?
Well, he's doing such a critical and excellent job, by the way. I've got nothing negative to say about him or J.D. Vance, who are obviously the 2 front runners. But what's going to happen is there's going to be a mad dash for that group, and whether it's a Ted Cruz or Governor DeSantis or a Glenn Youngkin or a lot of times we think we know exactly who the nominee is going to be at this time of the year, and it's somebody totally different. Take 2016, when a guy that wasn't given a chance ended up being the nominee and the president of the United States.
Yeah, no, I think we were all shocked at that one in 2016. Used to be that people would write books, and that was the dead giveaway. In fact, Ted Cruz has a new book coming out, so I thought, oh, Ted Cruz might be running.
Well, I think Ted does run. I mean, he's a young man.
But his book is, I think, is about Justice Thomas.
Yeah, it is. But anything that you write a book or write what people see as your core values. Listen, if you hold up Justice Thomas or Justice Alito, they're on the conservative realm. We automatically give a gold badge and a seal of approval for that. And so him coming out on something that he's actually an expert on, he clerked in the Supreme Court and obviously has followed it very closely. I think that it'll be a larger field. Now, will it be 16 people or 22 people like we saw in 2016? No, but I do think it'll be a fairly large group.
I understand that money is free speech. I know what the Supreme Court says, but there is something that I don't like about George Soros and Elon Musk on each side of the spectrum, having so much money pouring it into it, that having such an outsized impact on the elections to make it so that it waters down my vote, your vote, anybody's vote.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing that your viewers tuned in today, and most of us, not only just here in Washington, D.C., but across the country, say way too much money influencing far too few votes. But here's the other thing. It gets back to what you were saying, the whole AI and the ethics of if you actually put millions of dollars behind a lie long enough, it'll stick. And so we're going to have to come to grips with either campaign finance reform, which, by the way, Ted Cruz has been very strong in pushing, or some kind of ethics and moral as it relates to campaign. You know, what do you believe anymore? And it's really tough.
Mark Meadows, thank you. Nice to see you.
Great to be with you.
And the Reflecting Pool saga continues. Last night, President Trump posted on Truth Social, in part, quote, "We drained the beautiful reflecting pool in order to fix the scars and damage that was done by the vandals 2 weeks ago. The Parks Department had to empty the water in order to fix the watertight basin. It will be refilled and put back into service soon. These country-hating sleazebags should pay a big price for the damage done," end quote. This is what some of the damage looks like. Several arrests have been made for alleged vandalism. Former Olympian David Hearn is one of those arrested. He has pleaded not guilty. Coming up, this is unusual. 2 Supreme Court justices making a rare appearance on Capitol Hill. That when the record continues.
Remember Joe Biden? He was totally lost, had no idea where he was. And the big media, they knew it, but they covered for him. We deserve the truth, all of us.
Watch Greg Kelly Reports, only on Newsmax.
Ponvory is approved for the treatment of relapsing forms of multiple sclerosis in adults. Ponvory lowers the number of white blood cells, lymphocytes, in your blood. Usually, this will return to normal within 1 to 2 weeks of stopping treatment. Ponvory can increase your risk of serious infections that can be life-threatening and may cause death. Ponvory can cause your heart rate to slow down, especially after you take your first dose. Do not take Ponvory if in the last 6 months you had a heart attack, unstable angina, stroke, or other severe heart conditions, including certain types of abnormal heart rhythm. The most common side effects of Ponvory include upper respiratory tract infections, elevated liver enzymes, and high blood pressure. Starting treatment with Ponvory will begin with the starter pack. Ask your doctor about Ponvory or visit ponvory.com to learn more. By Vanda Pharmaceuticals.
If your flow doesn't go like it used to, if it's pee o'clock again, it could be an enlarged prostate blocking the way. The Urolift system is a minimally invasive, non-destructive treatment for men 45 and over that simply lifts the problem out of the way. Ask your urologist about the Urolift system. Most common side effects are temporary and can include discomfort when urinating, urgency, inability to control the urge, pelvic pain, and some blood in the urine. Rare side effects, including bleeding and infection, may lead to a serious outcome and may require intervention. The Urolift system for rapid symptom relief.
As America's largest private funder of brain aneurysm research, we support AI that enables earlier detection and saves lives. 1 in 50 Americans has a brain aneurysm, and ruptures strike without warning. Our early investments supported research that helped tech companies develop AI tools, enabling physicians to find aneurysms before they rupture. AI helps doctors act sooner and accelerates life-saving progress. Now is not the time to lose our competitive edge.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone. Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
People always ask, why Patriot Gold Group? With over 10,000 clients to date and over $1 billion in transactions, not a single complaint on the Better Business Bureau. Consumer Affairs top rated for 9 years in a row. Over 2,000 5-star reviews. The only company nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the no fee for life IRA. Gold is up 80% in the last 28 months, 275% since Lehman Brothers collapsed. We are patriots protecting patriots. Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 9 years in a row. Call now, 888-528-4290.
Today in our Soundbite Shuffle, we hear from Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh, who testified before the House Financial Services Committee on inflation, bailing out cryptocurrency, and his new job. Plus, Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan gloating about blocking the SAVE Act. That is the bill President Trump has wanted on his desk for some time. And Congresswoman Haley Stevens of Michigan has a unique way of campaigning for the U.S. Senate.
Inflation's a choice. We monetary policymakers need to choose lower prices, and that's the commitment my colleagues have made. We do not want to be in the bailout business, full stop.
Will you follow the president's wishes or follow the data?
My commitment to you is to follow the law and follow the data, follow our very best judgment.
And that's even if he publicly criticizes you for doing it. If you decide this is the way to go, this is what the data shows, and he publicly criticizes you and tells you how disappointed he's in you and all of that, will you still do what the data tells you to do?
I will, Congressman.
The other thing that we blocked yesterday was the SAVE Act, right? Which was literally allow this administration to rig our democracy so that it would be hard for any Democrat in any state to win any election.
I am going to be working on our behalf. I am going to be telling the stories on our behalf. And you better believe I'm going to be doing it with a little bit of joy, a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of energy, and a little bit of stick it to them. Because that's the Michigan way.
Well, now we know what she says she plans to do in the Senate if she is elected. And today on Capitol Hill, there was a rare appearance by two Supreme Court justices, Justice Elena Kagan and Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Both justices testified before Congress about the Supreme Court's request for a $16.6 million budget increase. They say they need it for security.
Most of the money for this increase is personnel and not building arrangements.
The request comes as the justices have received more and more threats. And it's not just the justices on the high court getting threatened. Judges on lower courts are facing increased risks. There has also been murder. In 2017, a Chicago judge was murdered outside his home in an attempted robbery. In July 2020, U.S. District Court Judge Esther Salas was targeted by a gunman. The gunman did not kill her, but he did kill her 20-year-old son and injured her husband. Justice Barrett mentioned Judge Salas at today's hearing. Here's Justice Barrett.
Many of us, me included, have received threatening anonymous deliveries designed to intimidate and harass us. They are often sent in the name of Judge Salas's son. I think the message on these deliveries being sent in his name is clear. My security detail sent me home with a bulletproof vest, and I carried it into my house, put it into my bedroom, dropped it down on a table, turned around, and my 12-year-old son was standing in the doorway of my bedroom, and he wanted to know what it was and why I had it. I didn't expect that performing this service was going to put me in the position of explaining to my children what a bulletproof vest was and why I had to wear one.
Barrett also said that the threats against her have caused her and her family to think about things children should not have to think about or see. And their text messages were secretly read. Former special counsel Jack Schmitt secretly obtained text messages from 44 members of Congress when his team was investigating Trump. We learned about this today after the Department of Justice released records to Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley. Grassley himself was the target. Missouri Republican and member of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Eric Schmitt, joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And how does it happen that a special counsel gets the text messages from 44 members of Congress secretly?
I mean, Jack Schmitt was out of control. We've known this now for a while, but I think these revelations from whistleblowers, by the way, this is never anything that was volunteered by Jack Schmitt and his crew when he was essentially tapped as the attack dog for Joe Biden and for Merrick Garland to go after his political enemy, President Trump. And so I just think the more these revelations come out, Greta, the more egregious this thing was. We've never seen anything like this. I mean, this makes Watergate look like, like a two-bit burglary. This was the whole of government and the entire Justice Department weaponized against President Trump, and then clearly now pulling in members of Congress in what they're not allowed to do. And if you ask me, Greta, what this whole thing was about, I think they felt, after the election, after January 6th, they felt completely justified to create this kind of weaponization that we saw in this country. It should never happen again. And they were looking for, I think, a nationwide show trial. And it wasn't just about President Trump. They just didn't have enough time. Thank God he won.
We use the word revelations, and it seems so much. I mean, that seems like such a nice word for this. This is a year and a half after Jack Smith left the job, and we're just hearing about this now. Did some federal judge sign these? I mean, 44. I mean, it's really. I mean, for one party to go after another party. I take it there were no Democrats who were part of that 44.
Well, we're just learning, who's actually was ensnared in all this. I can tell you also that the job I had before this, as you know, I was an attorney general in Missouri, and I was chair of the Republican Attorneys General Association. That organization got pulled into all of this, including Charlie Kirk's organization. And their only crime was we were Republican-leaning organizations. And so, to subpoena documents, to secretly tap phones and read text messages, this is like Stalin's, secret police. That's really what this was. It was a show me the man, I'll show you the crime kind of style of justice. And Jack Smith, I hope eventually is going to be before the Senate Judiciary Committee. There ought to be repercussions for this kind of behavior. There's no doubt about it.
Well, what I always point out about Jack Smith, I don't know why in the world Merrick Garland, former Attorney General, chose him, because he was the one who I would say ruined the career of a former governor of Virginia. He went after him. He tried him, got him convicted, eventually went up to the Supreme Court, and 9-0. That conviction was reversed because Jack Smith didn't know the law, and unfortunately he got a conviction down in the lower court. But I mean, Jack Smith certainly seems like he was just wildly out of control with way too much power. And I hope that you have hearings and we get more information on this.
Greta, I would argue that's exactly why he was picked, though. They knew exactly who Jack Smith was, and that's why he was selected, which makes this all the more egregious all the way to the top.
Tomorrow, Todd Blanche, acting AG, named to be the Attorney General. He's going to appear on Capitol Hill, begin his hearings. Tough road ahead for him or not?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think if the Republicans on the committee can hold together, he'll be able to get out of committee and then hopefully hold those numbers on the floor. I think Todd is, you look at his focus right now on law and order, going after this widespread fraud. He's eminently qualified to do the job. And so I think, the hearings the next couple of days will be very important. But I think we need an attorney general like Todd Blanche that focuses on the things we actually need to focus on, which is law and order, taking on violent crime. He's got a lot of success with that early on in his tenure. And unlike the attorney general we had before, and Merrick Garland, isn't focused on these sort of political paybacks, but very focused on the job.
Let me turn to one other, probably near and dear to your heart, but I didn't tell you that. I mean, your office doesn't know I was going to ask you about this, but Missouri and its floods. Always, we're a big country. We try to take care of each other. Missouri, since about July 10th or 11th, has been basically drowning. Can you tell me, what's going on? Are you getting help from the rest of the country?
Yes, we're helping lead that effort. I mean, in fact, a year ago, St. Louis had a direct hit with a tornado. That hasn't happened in the city of St. Louis in decades. And so still recovering from that to make sure people have the help that they need. But the flooding, particularly in southeast Missouri, over the last week or so is pretty dramatic. I mean, a once in a 1,000-year event, as it was estimated. Kids from a camp were being rescued. It happened very suddenly, and we're going to certainly be leading the charge to make sure everybody gets the help that they need. But these are, the time of year where those kind of dangerous situations can happen in a place like Missouri.
Well, oftentimes, too, is that when the water recedes, everyone thinks it's over, and forgets that. But the water is so powerful. There's so much destruction. I mean, the water may recede, but this is going to go on for a lot of people for a long time who are going to be suffering. And this is a time, we need a strong FEMA. And this is where we need a strong government to go in and help, as well as a lot of these organizations. I know Samaritan's Purse is always jumping in to help all these people around the country.
Yeah, and Missouri has really, with Task Force 1, has in the National Guard, they were heroes in these moments where a lot of people are hopefully running from the danger. They're running in, and so we certainly appreciate the first responders and our National Guard that were there to help when people needed it the most.
Senator Eric Schmitt, great state of Missouri. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Greta.
Coming up, thousands of Americans are sick to their stomachs, and it's not about politics. It's a parasite. Where is it from? Well, we might have some answers. Plus, UFOs. Are we alone or not? The White House just filled a job that may answer that question when the record continues. People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed. And you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
Here's Chris Cunahan with the Leaf Filter Gutter Report.
From blizzards to downpours to windstorms or heat waves, no matter where you live, Leaf Filter keeps your gutters clog-free year-round. Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
You might take something for your heart or your joints. So why wouldn't you take something for the most important part of you, your brain? Prevagen for your brain.
Hi, I'm Karan. I've been taking Prevagen for 4 years now. I noticed a significant change. I feel confident.
Prevagen for your brain. Every day presents a new opportunity for you to take care of your brain. Supplement your good brain habits with Prevagen. Prevagen for your brain.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drupinski. I've been looking at the aging process for a long time. Fatty 15 actually slows it down. Fatty 15 comes out of Navy dolphin research. Without the C15, our cells become fragile and age and oxidize. This pushes that back. That's why I take Fatty 15.
This July at Renewal by Andersen. Replace your windows, your patio doors, or your entry door, and we're going to give you an amazing opportunity. You ready? Pay nothing, and I mean zero zilch nada, for 18 months. I'm talking about no deposit, no monthly payments, and no interest until January of 2028. Choosing Renewal by Andersen to replace your windows and doors makes your home worth more. 3 out of 4 real estate agents surveyed agree Andersen products increase a home's value by at least 10%. Do the math. I think you're going to be happy. Let us show you colors, styles, and inspiration for your home. Get started by meeting with one of our design consultants by July 31st. Don't wait. Call 1-800-264-0500.
We have an update on the story we covered last week about a parasite. Thousands of Americans are suffering from digestive issues. So what is the source of this outbreak? Well, no one is certain, and the investigation continues. One possibility may be Taco Bell. That, of course, according to the Washington Post, citing 2 anonymous sources. And yes, you know how I feel about anonymous sources. I hate them. But according to these anonymous sources to the Washington Post, federal and state health officials are investigating whether Taco Bell played a role in the outbreak. Taco Bell has not responded to this news. It is certainly not proven as the source. But last week, we did report Taco Bell pulled some fresh ingredients from its menus that could have been simply out of an abundance of caution. And according to the Michigan Department of Health, health officials are looking into lettuce and salad greens as the possible source of the outbreak. And while nationwide health crisis, right now, Michigan has the most cases, more than 2,600 cases. And another mystery, UFOs. As we reported yesterday, the Pentagon has released its 4th batch of UFO files, and the White House is going one step further. It has formed a new council and filled a role on this council to help investigate these unidentified phenomena. Harvard astrophysicist Dr. Avi Loeb joins me. Nice to see you. Nice to have you back again, sir. And congratulations on getting on this council. Tell me, what do you intend this council to be? What do you be doing? And did they give you a budget so that you can do what you need to do?
Well, thanks for having me. I assembled 18 scientists with expertise in physics, oceanography, data analysis, artificial intelligence, statistics, and psychology. And the goal is to be guided by evidence, by data. Now, some of the data was already released in 4 batches from the US government, but it's not conclusive. It's hard to tell what distances of objects are and whether the orbs are, for example, ball lightning or maybe laser beams producing spheres, glowing spheres of plasma in the air. We need more data, better data. One way to get it is to request it if the government has it. And we submitted a request for 50 items of information that we are hoping to get a response to. But at the same time, if the data is not good enough from past reports, we can recommend new sensors. We did that already. There is a range of sensors that will give us better clues, because it's just like a detective story where we can get to the truth by collecting more clues.
Are they, I mean, I guess that you made your submission to get more information suggests to me that they're holding more information. Why would they not just turn everything over to in one fell swoop? I mean, if they want to get this out, if they want to be transparent, you know, to put you through the hoops. I got to tell you, trying to get information out of the government is enormously difficult. So, I mean, if you can possibly get them just to open the door for you.
Well, the declassification process takes time. I mean, some of the information is buried within the bureaucratic structure of the US government. Not everyone is aware of all the details. So, you know, it will take weeks or months to get there. But in particular, you know, if there is a high resolution image of an object that indicates that it's definitely not human-made, that would be of great interest. But even if we figure out some of the objects that are human-made that were previously unidentified, that's of great significance for national security, because these objects are hovering over strategic assets of the US. So at the very least, if you adopt a down-to-earth approach, you know, then what we are doing is helping the Pentagon, the intelligence agencies fulfill their mission, because then they would know if we're being spied upon. For example, there was the Chinese spy balloon shut down in 2023. And every time I see an ant in the kitchen, I realize that, you know, I get alarmed because I realize that there must be many more ants hiding under the sink. And in this case, for every Chinese spy balloon, there should be many drones and balloons that the Chinese were operating. We haven't noticed them. Maybe we called some of them orbs. So at the very least, we're dealing with a national security concern, which is a serious matter. But even if one out of these millions of objects happens to be non-human made, that would be the biggest discovery ever made by humanity.
What are the 40-some batches of files that were released? What provoked that? Other than that, you know, I'm a little annoyed that we haven't had those earlier. But why did they suddenly release those?
Well, that came from the directive from President Trump. It changed the mindset. I mean, if you look at Steven Spielberg's film, Disclosure Day, you would see the main character having their car smashed against a moving train because the government is upset. But in my case, my car is intact and the government is seeking cooperation with the scientific community. And this gives me hope that reality is far more inspiring than the script of Steven Spielberg. And we may get to the bottom of this as a result of disclosure and cooperation between scientists and the government. And I think that's the right way to approach it, rather than have opinions or beliefs aired on social media. That's not a good way to figure out what the nature of these objects is.
Are they giving you the resources you need to do this? Because obviously, you want to get this done sooner rather than later.
Right. We will do the best we can. I will work around the clock. I'm already doing that. And it's, you know, we're not getting funded, but I think that through the expertise that we have and the dialogue that we have with the relevant branches of government, that includes the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in the Pentagon, the FBI, the White House, and the intelligence community. Through all of these channels, we can make progress. So stay tuned. You know, history does not need to repeat itself, and the future may be better than the past. At least that's what I will try to make it.
Well, I have no doubt that you get to the bomb, or you can navigate it. You know all this stuff way out in space. My biggest worry is whether you can navigate Washington, where everyone plays, where it's so hard to navigate the rules and the bureaucracy and everybody else. Everyone claims everything is national security or as classified. So,
one thing to keep in mind is that there are two subjects that unify all Americans, and that includes, members of Congress from both parties. That is national security and whether we are alone in the universe. These are two subjects that bring everyone together. So I think we can work together and figure it out.
Good for you. I look forward to it. And I look forward to coming to Washington, sitting on my set. We can have more of a conversation. Dr. Avi Loeb, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having me.
And it's time for today's edition of What Do You Think? Today's What Do You Think involves a new 60-foot sculpture made of steel shipping containers. Residents in New York's Montauk area are furious about it. They don't like it. Los Angeles artist Matt Johnson created a sculpture at the art gallery called The Ranch. The sculpture is named Meditating Figure. It was built on private property, but residents say it's ugly and out of place. The gallery says the design is a metaphor about consumption and people's daily experience. It depicts someone sitting cross-legged with arms sitting on his knees. Last week, the local town voted to take legal action against the gallery. The town says the gallery failed to obtain a building permit and a certificate of occupancy. But the owner of the gallery says if it is on his property, he can do what he wants. So you tell me, what do you think? Would you be okay living near this steel structure, and should it be allowed to stay? Email me at the address in the bottom of your screen, Greta@Newsmax.com. Coming up, the U.S. blockade is officially back on. What does this mean? That when the record continues.
While this banana may not save you from someone breaking into your home, Berna's banana helped one vet repel an intruder in his.
This huge guy, 6'5", 6'6", just barreled through my front door. I have my Berna and my Glock. I always go for the Berna first. I've seen enough death and destruction the last 2 lifetimes. Here is the perfect item I can have, feel totally safe, and know I'm not going to kill anybody.
At Berna, we don't sell bananas, we sell peace of mind.
Kibble. It's been the standard for decades, and it's failing our dogs. That's why we created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It's gently air-dried, locking in the nutrients, and the flavor dogs go wild for. Visit your local pet food retailer today.
250 years ago, 13 was a very lucky number. Led by George Washington, the 13 colonies joined together to declare their independence. Now, on the 250th birthday of our nation, Washington is making headlines once again with a 2026 13-sided George Washington 24-karat gold dollar. Exclusively available from First Colonial Mint when you call 1-800-885-1776. Issued by Ascension Island, this dollar is the world's first 13-sided gold coin. It features Washington's portrait, 13 stars, and an eagle design from a gold coin Washington himself carried in his pocket. First Colonial Mint has released these gold coins for the special introductory price of only $69. This price is only available for a limited time, after which any coin still available will be priced at $119. So act now. Don't miss out. Call 1-800-885-1776 now.
Now, tirzepatide for weight management is available in a dissolvable tablet. It's not the injection and doesn't offer the same strength or clinical evidence as the injectable form, and results will differ from the injection. But for patients who don't want shots, this tablet option is worth exploring, understanding results will differ from the injection. Tirzepatide tablets are a prescription that starts with a telehealth evaluation by a licensed physician who reviews your health history. And if it's right for you, they prescribe it. This might be worth a conversation.
BRB, got a screen for colon cancer.
At halftime?
Yeah. With the Cologuard Plus test, you can start screening at home in about 15 minutes.
It's simple and non-invasive.
Nice assist.
False positive and negative results may occur.
For 250 years, America has depended on the courage of those who serve. They've defended our freedom and helped us become the nation we are today. At Wounded Warrior Project, we honor the past by building a better future for post-9/11 veterans, service members, and their families. They've given us their best. Join us in supporting them through the next 250 years of strength and resilience. Visit woundedwarriorproject.org/USA250.
The Iranian blockade is back on at this hour. The United States has officially resumed control over ships entering and exiting Iran's ports. Middle East correspondent Zach Anders is live in Tel Aviv, where it is 11:51 p.m. Zach?
Yeah, Greta, U.S. forces gave some of these vessels a little bit of time, those with flagged carriers like India, Singapore, to get out of these Iranian ports, because from this point on, the American Navy is going to be stopping any vessel that's attempting to dock or depart an Iranian port or coastal waters. The president also backed off his demand today that America be paid 20% on all the cargo moving through the Strait, telling reporters at his Oval Office meeting with Iraq's new prime minister that the Gulf states will instead make massive investments into the United States. Now, what we were watching as he was speaking with the Iraqi prime minister is that these the Iraqi and the U.S. side has also reached an agreement that there will no longer be troops in his country, American troops inside Iraq. Both leaders saying that the remaining American forces are going to be out by September 30th. There's still some outstanding questions about what that looks like, especially when Iraq is responsible right now for some 7,000 ISIS detainees from Operation, one of the operations that was responsible with rounding up a lot of these ISIS terrorists in Syria. They were kept in northern Syria for a long time until the Assad regime fell, and then they were brought into Iraq with American help. So that's going to be a big question going forward. Now, we do have some breaking news coming in at this hour. We are watching as Iranian attacks appear to be taking place in Bahrain and Kuwait. A cluster warhead was employed over Bahrain, and in Kuwait, we're getting reports from their government that 1 ballistic missile, 5 cruise missile, and 33 drones were intercepted. Some remarkable footage is taking place there. The Kuwaitis also say that one of their naval vessels was attacked and that 4 sailors were injured. We don't know the variability of their casualties there. On the other side, CENTCOM says about 2 hours ago that they began a new wave of attacks in support of this naval blockade, taking place mostly, it appears, in these coastal southern Iran towns. Bandar Abbas, there's some live pictures on state TV in Tehran of some remarkable strikes taking place all across the south of the country. We're watching that very closely. President Trump had said yesterday that there's a chance there could be a major attack on Iran tonight. He singled out Pickaxe Mountain, one of their nuclear sites, by name. So we're watching that all very closely tonight, Greta.
Zach Anders, thank you. And imagine waking up, starting your car at about 5:40 a.m. only for this to happen. A car explosion. That's what people heard yesterday morning just outside New York City. The local mayor says a 28-year-old plumber went into his car, turned on the ignition, and it exploded. Miraculously, the person was able to get out of the car and walk away alert. He was taken to the hospital and checked out. Reports say he suffered some injuries. The extent is not clear. Authorities believe he had a tank of acetylene in his trunk. That's a highly flammable, colorless gas that plumbers use for welding and cutting. That colorless gas may have caused that explosion. Police believe it was an accident. Coming up, how much do you think it costs to own a dinosaur? That answer when the record continues.
Hi, I'm Katrina Ziff. I've worked on the red carpet, I've worked at Vogue magazine, and now I work at Newsmax, and I couldn't be happier because it's all about bringing the most important stories in the world directly to you.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Fanapt allopurinol is approved for adults with bipolar 1 disorder with acute, mixed, or manic episodes. Unlike some drugs for bipolar 1 disorder, nausea, vomiting, and restlessness are not common with Fanapt. Fanapt may be associated with serious side effects. Elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis treated with antipsychotics are at increased risk of stroke or death. Fanapt is not approved for elderly with dementia-related psychosis. Fanapt prolongs the QT interval and may be associated with abnormal heart rhythm or sudden death. In 5% or more of people in clinical trials, heart rate increases, dizziness, hypotension, weight gain, dry mouth, stuffy nose, sleepiness, and increases in liver enzymes have been observed. These are not all the side effects. Talk to your prescriber and learn more at fanapt.com. By Vanda Pharmaceuticals.
Honey, Mortgage Bunny 6 says we should keep renting.
Mortgage Bunny 6?
Reba says more realtor agents recommend Realtor.com. They track every market so you know when to make your move.
He also says that Bigfoot... Got it.
Make it real with Realtor.com.
Today, kids are navigating an always-on world, consuming more information than ever before. Strengthening youth mental health starts with ensuring kids have strong digital and media literacy skills. Teaching students how to think critically about the content they see online helps them navigate digital spaces thoughtfully and intentionally. We need to teach media literacy in every school. Youth mental health is complex, but media literacy empowers educators and parents to keep kids safe.
At Omaha Steaks, we take premium aged steak and turn it into pure ground burgers like this. Our Burger Perfection flight comes with 20 big, juicy burgers, all for just $79.99 at omahasteaks.com/TV. Burger Perfection guaranteed.
Hi, I'm Sally with sellmypolicy.com, the fast concierge service here to help you sell your life insurance policy for cash now. Our experienced team makes it fast and easy for you to get your offer. Use the money however you want. John sold his policy for $590,000 in cash for healthcare. And Cheryl sold her policy for $90,000 in cash and used it to supplement her retirement income. If you are over 65 with a life insurance policy of $100,000 of coverage up to $50 million of coverage, then you may qualify. With Sell My Policy, some people choose to sell all or just part of their policy so they can access cash now while also keeping coverage in place for their loved ones. Plus, you'll get paid fast. Trusted by seniors, there's no obligation to sell. Find out what your policy is worth today.
It's fast and free with Sell My Policy.
Talk with a policy expert now to see how much cash you could receive. Call 800-910-2274 or visit sellmypolicy.com.
Healthy aging support starts here with the innovative nitric oxide science pioneered by Human, supporting your body from the heart out through circulation, blood flow, blood pressure, and energy. Results you can feel, science you can trust. Get started today at human.com.
Before we went to break, I asked you the cost of a dinosaur. Did you by any chance guess $50 million? If you did, you guessed right. That's how much a T-Rex fossil sold earlier today, at $50.1 million. It's the most expensive fossil ever sold at auction. The skeleton was discovered in South Dakota. The fossil is nicknamed Gus. Gus is the rancher who owned the South Dakota land where the T-Rex was discovered. Gus, the rancher, previously found little pieces of dinosaurs, so he partnered with an excavating company. That company discovered the big one, the T-Rex. It became one of the largest and most complete T-Rex fossils, and now it is the most expensive. So who paid $50 million on some bones? The buyer's name is not yet public. And don't forget, I have a podcast called Greta Wire. This week I speak with James Carville. He led Bill Clinton's campaign for president. I talked to Republicans today, so I wanted a Democrat on my podcast. That's going to publish in just a few minutes, Greta Wire. And you can subscribe to Greta Wire on your favorite podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or newsmax.com/listen. Thank you for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take is next. Stay with Newsmax.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.